Have you ever noticed that your hair feels heavy lately? It isn't about the weight of the hair itself. It feels like it is dragging your features down, casting a shadow right where we want light. As we look at the haircuts for women over 60, 2026 is ushering in. The conversation is changing entirely. It is no longer about length. It is about flow. And if you are feeling stuck, you might be trapped in the helmet. We have all worried about that stiff, sprayed, immovable look. But here is the reassurance. It is not you. It is just that gray texture wanting to stand up. When we fight that texture to force a shape, we create heaviness. But when we work with it, we find flow. We find light. Today, we are making the specific shifts that bring the light back. We will explore the Bixie, decode the Cowboy Bob, and master the texture that makes you feel weightless. It is time to swap heavy habits for light upgrades. Because here, we don't do strict rules, we do radiance. My friends, you are not fading away. You are just coming into focus. Let's bring the light back. But to find that light, we first have to understand why the old rules of construction are actually casting the biggest shadows. For decades, we teased, we sprayed, and we built architectural shapes that wouldn't move an inch, even in a windstorm. It felt safe, didn't it? But looking back, it also felt fixed, like a barrier between us and the world. The shift we are seeing in the fresh, rejuvenating hair trends of 2026 is a return to movement. It is about hair that feels like it can breathe. It is about a softness that dances around the face, blurring the edges rather than boxing them in. Think of it as introducing fresh air to your style. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking. That sounds messy, or my texture simply won't do that. To my curly girls and my fine hair friends, stay with me. I have a specific section coming up just for you, because your version of flow is unique and needs a different touch. We often mistake short for light, but one specific classic style creates a helmet effect that we need to rethink. Let's look at the style so many of us turn to for ease, the spiky pixie. For a long time, we were told this was sassy and spunky. It relies on sharp edges, hard lines around the ears, and often a lot of product to keep it standing at attention. It feels architectural, doesn't it? But here is the sensory truth we are discovering. When we put hard, fixed lines right next to a face that is softening, it creates a harsh contrast. Instead of lifting us, that severity can sometimes make us feel a bit rigid, almost like we are wearing a helmet. It served us well, but it feels a bit heavy now. The shift for 2026 is a beautiful hybrid called the Bixie. It is exactly what it sounds like, the freedom of a pixie combined with the softness of a bob. Imagine keeping that wonderful lightness at the back, but letting the hair around the ears and face grow just enough to tuck or flow. If you look at the Bixie on your screen, notice how it just covers the tips of the ears and hugs the nape of the neck gently. It doesn't point at the jawline, it blurs it. By softening those edges, we aren't hiding anything. We are simply bringing the light back to the cheekbones and framing the eyes with movement rather than geometry. Now, who is this for? If you have fine hair that tends to fall flat, the Bixie is magic, because the shorter layers underneath support the longer top layers, giving you instant natural volume without the teasing. It also pairs beautifully with a soft turtleneck or a statement earring, since your ears play a little game of peekaboo. As for maintenance, this isn't a cut-it-and-forget-it style. To keep that soft shape, you will likely need a trim every 6 to 8 weeks. But the daily styling? It is incredibly low lift. You don't need a round brush battle. Just a tiny bit of texturizing paste warmed in your hands, tousled through the ends, and you are out the door in 2 minutes. But if you want a bit more length to play with, or if you love the feeling of hair swinging near your chin, that desire for length often leads us to the safe bob. But we need to check if that safety is actually acting like a curtain. For years, the goal was the round brush bob, cut perfectly to the chin and styled under until it sat absolutely still. It feels safe, doesn't it? It acts almost like a little curtain that hides the jawline. But let's try something together right now. Just gently shake your head side to side. Does your hair move freely, strand by strand? Or does it move as one solid block? If it moves as a block, that is what we call the helmet. While it might feel polished, that lack of movement creates a visual heaviness right at the jawline, exactly where we usually want a little lift. And let's be honest with each other. Keeping it that perfect, that smooth, and that still, it is incredibly high maintenance. The shift for 2026 is something a little more spirited called the Cowboy Bob. Now, I know the name sounds a bit wild, but stay with me. Think of this as lived-in elegance. It still hits the jawline, but instead of being smooth and rounded, it has a scruffier, more rugged texture. It isn't messy. It is the texture of freedom. It is intentional ease. The magic of this cut is in the tuck. Just like we do a French tuck with our shirts to show a waistline, we do a tuck with a cowboy bob. By tucking one side behind the ear, you create a beautiful asymmetry that instantly opens up the neck. It takes that heavy curtain weight off the face and puts the focus right back on your eyes. It feels lighter because it is designed to move with the wind, not fight against it. So, how do we achieve this look at home? The secret tool here isn't a round brush. It is actually sea salt spray. The goal is the scrunch and go. You simply spritz a little texture into damp hair and use your hands to encourage that natural bend. We aren't aiming for perfect symmetry here. We are aiming for balance. This is a dream for anyone with natural waves because it finally lets them play. But even if you have pin straight hair, this cut adds the body you have been missing without the need for hours of heat styling. It is about embracing movement over perfection, because sometimes the biggest shadow isn't coming from the length at the jaw, but from the curtain we hang right above the eyes. For years, many of us relied on the solid wall bang. It felt like the perfect solution to cover forehead lines, didn't it? But here is the shadow side of that choice. When you have a thick, blunt curtain of hair resting right above your brows, it casts a literal shadow over your eyes. It can make the eye area look deeper, darker, and a little bit tired. We set out to hide the lines, but in the process, we accidentally dimmed the sparkle. The shift we are seeing everywhere for 2026 is the Scandi bang, or the wispy fringe. Think of this as veiling your forehead rather than covering it. You can see the skin peeking through, which keeps the look airy and breathable. It still softens those forehead lines, but because it isn't a solid block, it doesn't block the light. It frames the eyes like a soft halo, creating styles that lift the face rather than closing it off. You don't have to take my word for it. You can see this light shift right now. Next time you are at the mirror, just take a bobby pin and pin back half the weight of your current bangs, leaving just a few wisps falling forward. Do you see how your eyes suddenly seem to pop? That is the power of letting the light in. I hear that internal question, and I want to stop right here to validate it. Because standard advice often fails when it ignores the unique fabric of your hair. I see you. Most styling advice out there assumes you have medium density, obedient hair. But if you are managing wild curls or navigating fine, thinning hair, those standard rules actually work against you. So, let's take a breath and break the rules for your specific texture. Because you deserve a cut that works with what you have, not against it. For my curly girls, the biggest fear is always the triangle, where the hair goes flat on top and expands into a poof at the bottom. The old solution was to cut short layers on top, but we know that just leaves you with a mushroom shape. The shift for 2026 is internal weight removal. Imagine your stylist carving out little tunnels of air deep inside the hair, rather than chopping the length. This allows the curls to nestle into each other, rather than stacking up and out. And remember, hydration is your scissor here. Dry curls expand and look heavy. Hydrated curls clump together and dance. Ask for ghost layers or internal channeling to get that movement back without losing your length. Now, for my friends looking for haircuts for fine hair over 50, we need to do the exact opposite. The instinct is often to add layers to get lift. But on fine hair, layers just remove the little density you have, making the ends look transparent and ghostly. What you need is the Blunt Perimeter Power Bob. Think of this as building a foundation. A solid, unlayered line at the bottom tricks the eye into seeing a thick, healthy edge. It creates visual weight. It acts like a curtain that is fully drawn, rather than one that is sheer. This is truly one of the best haircuts for thinning hair over 60, because it keeps the fullness right at the jawline, giving you a strong, deliberate silhouette. But even the most perfect silhouette can feel wrong if the fabric itself feels like wire, which brings us to our silver sisters. It is easy to feel like your hair is damaged or unruly, but here is the truth. It is not damaged, it is just thirsty. Gray hair lacks the natural oils that pigmented hair has. Before you feel the need to cut it all off, try a clear gloss treatment. It seals the cuticle and softens that wire back into silk, so your cut can actually flow the way it was designed to. I want to know who is here with us today, so I can make more videos just for you. Tell me in the comments, are you managing curl, fine, or gray texture right now? Let's see which group is the strongest in our community. My friends, we have traded the heavy helmet for the halo. Whether you choose the soft embrace of the Bixie, the freedom of the Cowboy Bob, or you are finally letting your natural texture breathe, the shift is the same. Heaviness hides you in the shadows. Lightness frames the woman you are right now. You are not fading away. You are just coming into focus.